series is going to evolve, can revolve very quickly around something with the power of Lisa.
I want to see what the response is here for JDG. Again, we said you have to be able to contest in lane or at least survive in lane. And it's going to be all about bot lane early for Ruler and missing the Lucian Nami.
Okay, are we going to see the Aphelios answer? Are we going to see a Zeri answer? What is your answer towards this bot lane? You don't have a Caitlyn. LP not actually played that one himself on this side, and of course it was banned away by LNG, maybe feeling like they had to force it away. Ruler, despite not finding the most success on it.
The thing is, though, Hung looks best when he's connecting with Tarzan, so you need to find a way to be safe for LP while Hung can still get out of lane. We actually see the Draven Nautilus lock in for LNG.
So LP played a couple of the games of that Draven. This was the LPL's initial response to Lucian Nami in terms of fighting fire with fire. Go for the early aggression, trade level 1, trade level 2. See if you can burst out the Lucian Nami and stop them getting control in the first few levels where it feels like a lot of bot lane's meta has revolved around. So we have, very typically, for this season, jungle and bot lane locked in for both of these teams. Both of them are pressure, early fighting bot lanes which spike again on one item, and early game duelists and mid jungle specialists in the jungle as well. Actually, despite them being very different champions, they fulfill very similar roles, like for like, between LNG and JDG.
Very true. We get the Talia ban by LNG, the Fiora ban by JDG, and this is starting to get to that point we were talking about earlier for Zika. Can we find that counter or at least something to work in the top side to give a little bit of strength, maybe a little bit of that safety up there as well, and try to find a way to really help Tarzan and Scout find fruition here? Scout's Azir banned away by JDG.
Yeah, a lot of these ranged mages being locked out. Particularly that Talia being banned by LNG, actually very important. I think that Draven really struggles to fight as soon as the Talia E is down. Draven doesn't have the range to contend with that unraveled Earth. What else is going to be hitting the ban list here? The champion pools of these mid laners are so large, it's very hard to know what to ban out. Do you put multiple bans into these players which have such large champion pools? No, it's going to be that Sion taking away some of that front-to-back potential from that top side.
I do really wonder what the priority looks like here. The counter pick still available for JDG, and it's looking like it's going to be given to 369 here, as I know you'd be excited about this one, and there we go.
I love this. I love this so much. Knight had one of the very best Ahri games of the season very recently as well. Built himself up a Magi's, snowballed the way which I personally love to see Ahri's play. This, Lissandra, has been an answer into the Ahri before. We saw this a lot around this time last year, before MSI, because it just allows you to lock down that Ahri. Since then, though, we've seen a lot more Spellbook Ahri coming out, which makes it harder to play around that mid-jungle 2v2. A lot to burst from both sides, and I love this so much. We are having ourselves such an ability for Kanavi, Knight, Tarzan, and Scout to just fist fight in the mid lane and see if they can take control of the early game.
And I'm so surprised that Jax actually made it all the way through here. And an answer from 369 going to be needed. Willing to take the Ksante into it.
Ksante, that eponymous champion with 2023. It feels like this is the champion you'd name a lot of this early split after. 369 has been one of our best kind of bruiser, tank, fighter players in that top side. Had his Gragas and Renekton bound away with the Ksante. No slouch on that. Zika, though, one of his comfort champions has been that Jax. So competitive matchups across each of these lanes. They have ability to fight the early game. They have lots of mid-game spikes. I don't think either of these teams particularly outscales each other in straight kind of fashion either. You're going to have some side lane threat from the side of Zika's.
Champions in 2022, and it's the matchup we've all been waiting for. It's Tarzan and Scout versus Kanavi and Knight as we hit the rift for the first game of our best of 3.
Setting the tone wonderfully for what should be one of our premier series to watch. Other regions across the world will be tuning in for this, seeing how the very best teams in the LPL do it over here. What can they learn from them? What can these teams learn from each other? How are they going to back and forth? Does feel like Box is squaring up, those gauntlets being punched together, amping up for what could be a defining series for the end of this regular split.
And what a way to come into it here. We got Knight taking and willing to take the Ahri into a counter pick that was available for Scout. Scout now on this Lissandra. A lot of setup potential with him and Tarzan. And we're looking at those early paths from both Kanavi, Tarzan himself, as Zika will have his 100th game in the LPL.
Milestone for him.
What a milestone to have in game one of this matchup.
it's what a time to have it as well. Let's see if that can be some kind of good omen for this one. 100 games more. Look for these level 1 hooks. We know that these lanes like to fight level 1.
I don't see anything across the runes that really speaks to me too much. You got the lethal tempo for Zika on the top side.
The one thing is that spellbook in that mid lane, because this time last year we'd see a lot of electrocute on the Ahri going towards burst, and then you'd try and out lane Lissandra, kill them very early on. Lissandra not the strongest level 1 champion, but going towards that spellbook means that you can kind of survive the point in the game where Lissandra starts to really start to threaten. Ahri typically very safe, very hard to pin down, and with players like Knight and Scout, being safe means they're doing damage as well. They very rarely get into a position where they're not doing DPS on champions like this. But the spellbook gives you that extra degree of safety, which means that it's not quite as easy as this time last year to use the Lissandra into this pick.
And honestly, I'm just sitting here stunned that I actually get to watch a Jax game. I feel like I haven't gotten to watch a Jax game in so long. And we actually did it here. We'll have to check into that a little bit later, how that 1v1 is going. But for now, it is looking at the bottom side clears coming into for our Tarzan and Kanavi, and a little bit of aggression back and forth in the bot lane.
But these haven't been explosive trades yet. One of the big things we talked about JDG has been how if they ever get control of a lane phase, game starts to really get crazy after that point. To get a lead, it tends to stick, it tends to balloon in ways which very few teams in the LPL can manage as well. On the other side, LNG, they've had a bit of a slower crawl to some of their victories, not the highest win time. We have a 3v3 in the bot side though. Kanavi going on the...
It's already happening. Hung is trying to connect here though. A lot of CC on Kanavi. That's a flash from Kanavi, burned early.
And that is because LP and Hung, they get control of that wave. They don't land the hooks early, but Ruler and Missing forced off the wave, gives them that inroad into the enemy jungle. Kanavi put behind early, forced out of his jungle, loses his flash. Knight's going to be able to force in this mid wave, at least get himself into an okay position in that one matchup. But you can see, despite the hooks not landing, LNG getting some kind of advantage out of this bot lane, which we were actually fairly worried for against Ruler and Missing.
And that's the kind of cohesion you need as well. Ooh, Zika getting a little bit low here. 369 as well. A little hop, skip, and a jump from Zika. Gets him away. But you needed that movement early, that cohesion from LNG. And I'd love to see 4 members getting participation, or at least in terms of setting up around there. Maybe not actual participation in anything, but that cohesion movement, that is LNG to a T, needing to find that against JDG.
Hovering over Kanavi, graphic shows up at that bottom. Lots of good numbers for them. Sadly, I can't translate that. I don't speak Mandarin. But Kanavi, as a player, has been one which has had a couple of questions leveled at him when he's not ahead of the game, when he's not able to push into the enemy jungle. If he's been pinned back, and see what happens to him. We saw EDG in their victory versus JDG doing a really good job with JJ, reading Kanavi like a book, countering his first few plays of the game, and stopping him from getting to the points of power where he can be the big, aggressive playmaker. He's had games of Medjai's on Gragas. He's been such a flair player. But when he's behind, it kind of starts to snowball in the opposite direction.
And we already see that he was kind of upset in his own jungle there. You did see actually Tarzan hovering bot side to get his recall off, but Hung and LP using a lot of that strength of the Nautilus presence to push Missing and Ruler off of the wave. You should just see that back and forth here. But Dragon is spawning on the board, and with these kind of aggressive bot lanes, I expect that Dragon to be in high priority.
Aggressive
They're
lanes
moving.
going away of LNG right now. They are moving. Level 6 on the Scout. They see him moving. That is a dive heading towards that bot side if it's not countered. Ruler Missing. Can't afford to get pinned under this tower. But they back off from the wave. Tarzan hanging out of vision, making sure that he's not walking up to where potential wards could have been put down from Ruler and Missing. As this is happening, Knight immediately tries to find a response. It's very hard for the Ahri to walk into River. Against the Lissandra, even at this point, doesn't have a cleanse from that spellbook, nor does he have something like Merchandise over that CC. As soon as Scout uses that Fog of War, it's very difficult for Knight to move out onto the map as well. The best next option he has is to push in that wave and make sure at least Scout has his wave under tower for 6 minutes.
See now as those first clears did come through, now moving into those second clears here for Kanavi and Tarzan. We still saw some of that early movement from Tarzan on the Lissandra. You'll love to see that, but it is now Kanavi front and center on the Dragon with Knight roaming and a little bit of push helping out Ruler. Going to join a little bit later. The Dragon actually pulled off.
Really important thing just happened. Knight just switched over to the cleanse on the spellbook. We talked about him not being able to walk into Fog of War, not pick a fight with Scout right now, of fear of Tarzan turning up and making his life fairly difficult. With the cleanse, means he can disengage a bit more, can play a bit more aggressively. You can also see that he's got that commencing stopwatch in inventory, which means that both of these mid laners are going to be dashing forward, looking for their CC, getting some either stasis through Lissandra ult or through something like a Zonya's built second or third from Knight in his own side.
Just trying to pilot the Ahri early. Tarzan will take advantage of the lack of space provided by JDG to start up this Dragon himself. Actually see that Kanavi's on the other side of the map. LNG will move their bot lane up. Should be the first objective secure.
But I love this so much, Mazel, because we haven't seen any action in this game, but it feels like kind of two fences facing off from each other. You know, kind of like, well, maybe it's more like a samurai movie, actually, something like that. Where kind of got the two, you've got like a windswept plains, breeze in the long grass. So both teams kind of
the
waiting
leaves
there,
flying across the middle.
Yeah, just kind of like some kind of poignant movement. Music in the background. First one to draw might lose. Kanavi's
Kanavi was trying to go for an aggressive play, but now he's in some trouble here. Kanavi has nothing left. First blood to LNG.
Kanavi doesn't have the winning lanes, and he invades in a very unwise decision. And what was set up to be this crazy first play of the game between both these teams, both mid laners getting to roam through those plays, turns out to be a bit of a fizzle from JDG's jungler. Now 369's caught out.
Again, LNG have just been moving so well around the map. There's the frozen tomb. The CC from the Counter-Strike, and Zika gets a second.
Real lapse of judgment from JDG around the map.
Oh, the bubble connects. You got a little culling back. Hung is tanking that up real well, though. Is the whirling LP! Those adoration stacks are well earned.
What's a dragon without a knight to slay him? JDG's got one in the mid lane. Turns out, so do LNG, but he's on the Draven in the bot side. Knight's roaming his way down, though. LP stops that recall, but they can't pull off that dive. All across the map, JDG, the team which is famed for winning their lanes, for snowballing through individual prowess, fall behind in that jungle invade. Don't have the platform to really play around these aggressive movements. And LP picks up the pieces in this bot side, and this is the big change which has made Draven so difficult to fight. Even if you're just farming, even if the game isn't about you and your kills you're getting early on, if you're stacking, you have a very
Look how
large
much he does.
Damage.
Oh my god!
513 extra gold, or rather gold on top of the kill being put in. Even though it's early into that game, that is going to get you to an early bloodthirst. That is going to start snowballing this game. As we said right from the off, leads in this kind of draft are going to stick. LNG strike first.
2,000 gold up under 10 minutes. Our LNG, they've been moving since level 3 together. Now we got to see if a response is nigh for JDG. Trying to punish Zika, trying to get this shutdown onto somebody that matters here. Knight trying to chase into the alcove, missing the charm. Zika, he gets the cease and desist used onto him here. The counter-strike does come through. The triple stun and the lead strike. They've got to do this. This has to come through for JDG. They can't let this go. And there's the flashes to make sure it happens. JDG on the board.
No one on that side of the map to respond from LNG, so it is going to be a bit of an awkward execution from JDG, but a kill nonetheless. Kill goes over to Kanavi. Of course, he died for that first blood. At least gets himself something of a way back into this game. It's the right side of the map. At least LNG don't set up for a big cross map. That's always the worry of committing such a large amount of time and resources towards the top side. You're going to get answered somewhere else. Going back to the largest state in the game, though. Huge gold lead. For this point in the game, at least, for LNG built up. They haven't solved that dragon as well. And they have a Herald, so both of those early objectives in their pockets. Tarzan kind of in position to make the next big power play across the map with that Herald in inventory.
Let's see where that gold's going to go, as I would love to see it down in the bot lane. We'll get a replay of that, as JDG did get that response.
Yeah, well, this is the one thing you can't really afford to do. The Jax would just get pulled back into town. It wouldn't have really mattered in this game.
He almost made it out still.
He almost did, probably because Knight sadly misses all of the skill shots you have on Ahri. I am no stranger to that. I play an awful lot of Ahri myself, and I've seen a number of games like this. But Knight, on a champion which has found so much success on before, at least gets the kill participation. That's the most important thing about this. He's struggling to get himself involved in the game in the same way that
that's a
Scout
bloodthirster already.
And Zika is also proxy farming already. He's died that one time and goes, huh,
Well, you know,
three before. I'm pretty
there's
happy
a
with this.
reason why Jax doesn't make it through.
Okay.
I'm just saying. There's a push play here on LP, though. Cease and desist, tidal wave, all coming through, but Hung going to block a lot of the damage. LP out with a flash. Here comes LNG, and here comes the response. Missing will sacrifice his life. The martyr of JDG is giving that kill to LP. He should be able to chase this one down. One more auto, and there you go. Another cash in.
480 odd gold collected there from LP, another cash in, and against ruler of all players, coming in from his first regional title ever across his career, comes to the LPL, has a heck of a split so far, but LP, this development prospect you were talking about from you, being the better of the 280 carries so far, and gaining the first 2 kills to the left.
Right here, right now, LP stepping up like that hero to slay the dragon of ruler. And on the Draven itself, huge stuff from him, as it has been a kind of new adaptation into competitive for him here in the Draven. Now we get that dragon spawning here. We'll see where they wrap back around. We got to see that bush play that went awry for JDG.
Yeah, I think maybe if that Q lands, the extra bit of CC, large amount of damage as well, first max ability to fight. Maybe that could have turned that around, gets that shutdown through onto Draven, or he didn't put him to build up shutdowns, of course, he earns so much gold when he starts to snowball. Of course, in the retreat, Missing is the one who goes missing in action towards this bot side, cashing in once again for that Draven. And this game is going to very quickly become about, can you stop LP from auto-attacking either by killing him or zoning him out? How easy is it going to be for that? JDG moving from their mid-jungle towards this dragon, not able to get towards it. Anyway.
Here comes the commit from JDG. This duo, it's working out though. Tarzan gets out with the blast cone, and here comes Kanavi to get the kill. LP a little bit caught here, does have to be careful, and JDG are starting to get some cohesion themselves.
Yeah, you can think of the Lissandra roaming to these plays being the big initiator, but with the point and click cease and desist, with the Spirit Rush following up, the engage range from both mid-jungles, very, very powerful. You see that JDG, despite being behind, have plenty of tools to catch people out of position. LNG can't afford to make too many mistakes along those kind of lines. As JDG get their resets back in, starting to complete first items across the board from multiple people.
Everfrost. All right, so you get the Everfrost and the Sorcerer's Shoes in the completed back. That'll be 2 plates, though, going over to Scout. Should get his item completion as well.
Sadly for Knight, despite getting the 2 assists, didn't have an early Dark Seal to start stacking up that, particularly in matchups like this. Being able to
Double
force out Lissandra ultimate.
I don't think I've ever seen that, actually.
Yeah,
I like
the thing is, if you tag, in this kind of matchup, if you tag any kind of CC onto the mid-jungle, someone dies. I can understand it when it's this explosive. Normally it means you dip a little bit of damage because you don't have something like a Ludens for the side of the Ahri, or something like I guess on the Andres if you're against tankier teams overall as well. But either way, neither of these players have themselves kind of like the stacking threat of the Dark Seal as well, which can make things even more flippy. Maybe JDG feeling pretty happy about that one because
LP has 2,000 gold on Ruler. Oh my goodness. I mean, Ruler did get the Gale Force here, but still, you're almost at that second item coming across for LP, getting close to it at least.
Yeah, and Ruler doesn't have that same kind of sustain, right? As much as he has the cleanse and he has a Nami behind him, Bloodthirster as an item right now is really stupid strong. And when you have something like an overkill as a rune as well, which we often see just going up with that item, the double shield is very hard to work with. Kanavi gonna get caught out way out of position.
This is again happening. They get the CC down. That's a 3-level difference. Nice move from Scout, though. The cease and desist comes back. Missing is trying to save Kanavi, but he can't. And LP catches it again. Big Daddy Bucks for LNG.
Nami walks in the river, but he has no right being that far up. Knight stuck in the river, not enough damage, not enough bravery, I suppose, and safety to go forwards, even into the half health of Lissandra. JDG not really able to support Kanavi's playstyle. Kanavi loves going into the river, loves going for these invades and making the aggressive plays, but if his lanes aren't very close behind him, we've seen games like this where he can get punished. And this one is a pretty freebie one. He just walked in to go get a ward, but it's not like Lucian Nami have got control of the mid-wave at this point. You only want to wait an extra 20-30 seconds for this, just make sure that he can get someone a little bit closer to ball. Maybe look at how Scout goes very low HP there, you could have turned things around. Maybe you could have got something through even at that point. Draven's in the fight either way. Maybe don't fight around that player on the map. JDG really struggling for options.
I feel like every time that Adoration Stack cash-in sound comes across, Ruler like gets a little bit of a twitch to it. Oh man, come on! Like this bot lane has been so contested.
Yeah, it's
And
it's been really rough. 0-0-0.
He's trying to find some adaptation here, waiting for that first side of Spike for Missing to really get that duo damage. But by then, this lead will just continue to grow.
Yeah, the only thing that this ruler is measuring is the team gap right now across the rift. We've got the 4,000 gold advantage for LNG. And keep going back to this. JDG, they're a very snowball-y team. Fastest average game time in the league, fastest global game time in regards to the fastest game. They've had a 18-minute game earlier in the split. But LNG holding them to account early. JDG is starting to look a little bit uninspired with the way that they're trying to look for these big plays. Kanavi has been the one who's caught out, but he's not quite connected with the rest of his team. What they really need to start doing is fight for these pockets of vision. That's the right instinct. That's what Kanavi died for the very last time. But your execution on it can't be as sloppy as it's been in that last play.
Yeah, and while both these teams, are locking in playoffs and whatnot, it still doesn't take away the importance of this because of seeding and the fact that this is the last matchup between the top teams that we should get here between LNG and JDG's remaining schedule. So JDG, while yes, it's off to a bit of a slow start, they need the series win, and they want to definitely put a stamp on that one.
Really, what style it would be to do that. Scout looking for a play in the mid lane, has Ghost, has Flash, has a lot of mobility to get on Ruler. It's a big convergence of members of the mid lane. Here comes Nautilus.
He does utilize the dash as well as he get out of there. That'll be the depth charge gone, so a bit of an engage tool gone from LNG, but I don't think that matters that much as Rift Herald popped in mid lane by Tarzan and moving to the Dragon Pit.
No fish on the end of that fishing line from Hung. Swing and a miss in that case. Nothing really being able to be blown from Ruler at this point. Not having the Gale Force is very important, but he has full HP to fight the next phase of play. Knight doesn't have the cleanse right now either. Very important to note. Knight gets caught out.
They're going to get another charge here. They get the charge, and now they can move back, but it should be this Dragon going to JDG. They don't get it in time. I thought they may have more damage on it by the time we get back to it, but they're TPing Knight in. We're about to look at a 5v5.
Yeah, they get Knight back behind his team. It's very hard for Ahri to flank into this kind of team. Lots of pick CC. What have they got to play with, though? Lissandra so strong at this point in the game. Watch for Scout's ults.
Keep an eye on Kanavi, keep an eye on Tarzan. They need to get into the Dragon Pit. Tarzan already gets that Sonic Wave in. JDG positioning. Nice! Stuns from Scouts! He goes golden with that Frozen Tomb. Now they're right back into the engage. Knight is scouting around everywhere here, but the team fight front to back is reestablished by LNG. And it's a trade 1-for-1. Hung 4-3-6-9. The Dragon has been left. The reset's trying to come through. TP from Scout is available, but the Dragon should go over to LNG.
How the heck was that only a 1-for-1? 4-man Ring of Frost should have been the fight-ending play. Zika times the recalls well. Knight's going to have to land himself a charm. Doesn't actually need to. EpicSkillshot just enough to dissuade them. But LNG, somehow, someway, don't manage to get the winning fight. They do get themselves the Dragon. They do still get themselves a kill onto 369 in the midst of this. We have to see how Scout finds this angle. Lissandra at this point in the game is such a force to be reckoned with.
Oh, they all grouped up leaving the pit. This Mountain Soul's huge.
Absolutely huge. That is absolutely disgusting from Scout, but they can't quite finish up the kills. The tidal wave from missing, very importantly, buying enough disengage for at least Ruler and Knight to escape the initial engage, to turn back some damage. JDG still have some firepower to turn to bear.
Oh boy, Nymeara. 2 items for Scout and LP now, though, and they might have some weaponry, but time is of the essence at this point. A Dragon Soul in 4 minutes for LNG, and Tarzan and Scout just looking for a little bit more on this top side, take down this last outer tower.
Yeah, Lissandra Lucian so dangerous at any point in the game when they are left in a 2v2 situation. Scout, point of power. Scout done a really good job on this Lissandra, getting out of the lane early, in the very early game, able to make plays across the mid lane. He's not going to be hit this play.
369
coming in.
Hung trying to get out of there, but the real focus is on to Tarzan, and they get him. As JDG get, oh my god, it's traded back. Ruler just takes up everything from the tower. Scout is pushing out that outer lane to the top side, but that is not a trade you want to take because now tier 2 is also under threat.
Zika's forcing in the side lane down towards bot side. We knew that Scout was heading top side. JDG now trying to rotate across the map, but with the AD carry dead, it's not like JDG could find another fight out of nowhere. Ruler for the longest time was sat at, 0-0-0 for most of this game. Gets something from that last fight, but
1-1-1.
even with that, goes down.
Yeah, he's evolved into the one categories. Now we got to go to 2-2-2. As it did start out with a beautiful flank, but it was a dupe. They thought they were going on to Hung. It was really Tarzan they wanted.
Asa will manage to get the big follow through CC. Maybe they could have aimed for both if that Nautilus hook wasn't
it was the kick. Ah, nice.
Could actually
Feels
catch
bad,
that
man.
alive, but Tarzan getting something from nothing with that one. Lucian. So fun to see this champion back in meta when you have so many players as proficient at the likes of Tarzan, and of course Kanavi on this side as well. Get to see them strut their stuff. And Ruler has really struggled to play through the item power spike, which we know that Lucian Nami loves to play through. They've got their one items, but they just haven't found the angles. JDG as a whole have been struggling to find the angles in this game.
They really have, and we put so much prowess on the two jungles, the mid-jungle duos, and how that'll work. But from, like I was saying earlier, level 3, LNG have been moving as a unit. They were collapsing 4 members into Kanavi's jungle early on, and they have not stopped that. And we saw a little bit of that give from JDG in their own right, getting some of that communication down, the moves around the map. But it's still been LNG controlling, and with a 5,000 gold lead, that's not going to stop anytime soon. And 2 minutes until that Dragon Soul fight for LNG and JDG.
Oh, and this is such a difficult position for JDG because you're right, it's a very early soul, but it's an early soul threat when you have winning side lanes as well for LNG. You've got this Lissandra with the threat of the Tarzan Lucian in the back pocket. You've got Zika pushing up lanes as well, and pushed in across the map. LNG, they've only lost 1 tower in this mid lane outer turret, so they don't even have threat of JDG pushing in those long side lanes. So when it comes to fighting around this dragon, coming up in a minute and a half, LNG will have the choice to get victories through side lanes and then approach the dragon. They have vision already in place. JDG can't really force them away from the map. It's a very difficult situation for them.
I will say we're finally getting the at least combo the Lucian Nami to a place where it does damage. We got the second item completion for Ruler as well as Knight. So some point and presence at least on the map for them.
Counterpoint, look at Draven's items. He's about to hit that.
Hey, all right. Come on. So does Ruler get a buff because, coming over to the LPL has goes so good, so maybe we count that Doran's as a third item? Or
if this was ARAM and you had like the Guardian items, which actually do kind of count as a mythic item, I would give you a pass. We're not on that game mode.
We're not there.
Have that moment at this point. Ruler does have a very strong 2-item spike. It's not going to be the rapid fire cannon to have the much quicker 2-item spike. Cheaper item, 2,600 gold. The rapid fire cannon can sometimes get you ahead of the curve. Goes for a little bit of the dip to finish that second item into very quick blades, but that is such an important item. If Ruler manages to escape the initial engage, does have the ability to clean up. Cannot be afforded to get hit though by LP. If Draven starts to swing those axes at him, that Lucian's hitting the ground. We
get actually the smite switch to by Scout, just in case they need an extra little bit of give.
We have
yeah, Knight is there. We do, and that is Dragon already started up by LNG. Here comes JDG.
Coming in, but this is getting burned. Look at those axes. Doing so much damage to the Dragon.
They can't get in. Here comes Kanavi. Does it? Knight gets it with his smite! And it's JDG who can take him front to back. LP get 1. It's a trade back as Scout is down. Kanavi is down, but missing it a little bit low. Here comes the all-out from 369. Back over the wall, but Zika's chasing him down. On the other side, Knight able to kite away, but 369 might be left to rot here as Zika chases him, and 1 more auto as LNG get 2 for 1. But it's Knight that delays the soul.
Yeah, it's the worthy sacrifice. There were 4 smites on the table, both spellbook mid laners, switching over to that for that fight. And JDG, with the look of the draw, quick draw on the smites, just about get that one down. However, Kanavi died, jungler is dead. He's coming back out on the map with home gods. How quick can he get towards the Baron?
TP back. Knight doesn't have smite this time, but they got to try to stop this. LNG reeling a little bit after that. And get something back on the map, realize it's not the place nor the time to do Baron.
LNG potentially looking to draw in the fight around that objective, but wisely choosing to slip away.
Oh my god!
How many? I saw 2 or 3 spite animations in there, maybe just the 2. Hard to tell. You've got so many of those particles flying over, but you can see how difficult that sort of situation comes through. Credit to JDG realizing that those smites were going to be very important. Counter the 4th give over an easy solve, particularly when you've already got like Bloodthirster shields, stuff like that coming up for LP. Just an extra degree of difficulty which you can't really allow.
I actually really like this from 369. I think actually in that moment, Zika was in position to just clean house on JDG.
Yep.
He uses that all out, gets him away from the fight while he gives up his life. He's not giving up Ruler and Knight. So big stuff there. Now we will see LNG try to point this presence. 6K gold lead. And I think this might be a little bit of trouble for JDG. Ruler dashing
Kanavi
away.
just reset. I don't know whether they saw him or process elimination, but Kanavi is not going to be here too soon. Either way, if this engages, though,
he's
buys
running.
JDG enough time to get in
See,
position
though,
potentially.
Half health here. Ruler does get that red buff. Here comes JDG. Scouts waiting in the wings. They re-engage now for LNG on 2-3-6-9. Can't get much back. The culling comes through and JDG stop it. But no! 369 walks into everybody. The blade, the whirling death rather.
Tarzan.
On the back comes Scout, missing very, very low. The cease and desist there onto Tarzan. Tarzan down, but Scout found the back line. He's going golden. And now Ruler needs to run away. Knight almost gets taken. LP! Another cash in! And you gotta adore this promotion for LNG. LP stepping up to the table.
Yeah, how can we forget about this guy? It's the League of LP, the League of Draven. 5-0.
He's going for it, and he's gonna cash in some more. Kanavi, hit, and LNG right back to it.
Oh my word, in the fractured fights in between the battle lines, LP is also unkilled in this game. 3 items hit, absolutely bashes JDG over the head with it. It gets close again. Baron is not actually taken down. JDG still somehow defending that objective from being taken. Despite Kanavi being caught out in a bit of an awkward reset on the bottom side of the map, he's got to try to keep himself up in levels and gold somehow, some way. 369 tanking an awful lot in this replay, right at the start of it.
Yeah.
Using his tankiness, using his kind of innate tankiness to just stop the maximum value coming through from LNG's kind of engaged kind of tools.
Oh,
See that
Tarzan
Kanavi,
can never connect.
He's just
He actually had a little bit of an out.
Honestly, good guy. Bro, Kanavi saves missing for the a little bit longer.
That thing had rockets on it, man. That thing was flying.
Oh crash
my
landing
goodness.
for JDG after that fight as well. Oh,
dude,
word,
this guy LP been in the system for LNG since 2021. Has gotten that call up here after having subbed temporarily for the team before, but he is coming alive in a matchup against Ruler, the Ruler, coming over to the LPL, trying to make his own name in a new region. And what a way to do it on the Draven.
Well, if you swing for the king, swing for the Ruler, you best not miss. He's been hitting an awful lot of his shots this game so far. The game's still not out of control. JDG, we've seen that if
that's
Ruler
3 item spikes,
survive. The 3 item spikes are terrifying. I'm just saying JDG are a good enough team with good enough carry players. If they are given enough room to free hit, there's Lucian, even with the 2.5 items, heading towards an Essence Reaver third as well, but it looks a bit, might be enough to just pick off someone. Pick off someone around the side of a team fight, get isolated on a dive if they don't quite match up with their team. If this was another team, I'd say it'd be pretty over. Because it's JDG, you give them some benefit of the doubt.
The length of engage that we've already seen Kanavi and Knight be able to pull off, that is what I'm looking at. That Essence Reaver did get completed here, so 3rd item spike for Ruler, but it is about 1 overstep from LNG and can be punished. By the way, LP's just doing the dragon.
Yep, you can do that. You can absolutely solo it. His ult's coming up for
there
his
you
JDG
go.
looking
There's
for the
that
fight.
engage. JDG with the tidal wave over top. Kanavi can't get the engage. Scout actually not getting hit by the bubble in the end. So JDG try to pull the trigger. They do utilize their tidal wave and their cease and desist.
Yeah, LP didn't finish the dragon. So JDG, they look for the fight there.
They're going back in double knockup, and LP gets back on the board. Here comes Zika on the Ruler. He gets stunned down. Ruler's chased down, and LNG have destroyed JDG as there's no hope left here. JDG with 369 gets Scout back. A bit of an over overextension from LNG for sure. LP's just pushing mid lane. That is their primary source of damage. But here comes Zika and Tarzan, the double counter strike. And the lethal is here for JDG. Now 369 trying to dive and dodge out of this one, but another counter strike connects. And this should be another kill going over and a dragon soul for LNG.
It's a valiant retreat from JDG, but it is still a retreat. It's still a loss in LNG. They thread the needle. They don't take the dragon while JDG look for their first engage, but they find the turnaround just after LP climbing up in the kill score. Again, 7-0 and 5 now. This is after LP has pulled off the dragon, and Scout once again making one of these game-defining plays. So much damage coming in after that setup from the Lissandra lands home.
And again, there is a reason we don't see Jax let through. I'm just going to say it again. Zika is able to separate a lot of these fights on the backline and let LNG do their work.
Yeah. I will say, you can see even with this gold deficit, even with the number of damage numbers kind of creeping up through the very start of that fight, the mobility of the Ahri and the Ksante able to take a fight over the wall, isolate someone out there, it makes things somewhat questionable for it. There was a chance that Tarzan actually died at the back of that, making into what, something like a 4-for-2, despite the really good intro to that fight from LNG. Back onto the Baron though, Mountain Soul this time. The next fight is going to be that much harder for JDG to fight in.
That's Lord Tom's now completed for LNG's ADC. They are just burning down this Baron, and I don't think Kanavi can really do anything about it. 369 trying to bait out a little bit here as they will stop the Baron, threatening a 50-50 or JDG.
JDG really want to isolate someone, pick someone off, make sure that the engage isn't clean from LNG.
Oh,
Scouts
almost around the corner though. Kanavi goes in on LP, flashes away, he has to go golden. Here comes Tarzan on the flank. Tarzan wants to find somebody. He gets one kick back as 369 takes up the front, but it's Zika who slams home on the Knight. And while 369 able to dodge away, it's an uneven fight now for JDG. It should be LNG moving on to the Baron.
I mean, with Ruler still alive, maybe there's some way that JDG can put the culling across the team, but LNG, they take down the Ahri, they take down part of that mobile assassination squad, and they're looking for a second fight.
Culling coming through. They actually catch out a couple members of LNG here, but here comes LP and Zika. JDG trying to move back, kiting though. 369 is out in the middle of nowhere, but he's got Kanavi over the wall, and there you go. He's driving through the team of LNG, and he actually makes it out.
How the heck does 369 keep living in these scenarios? So much mobility and the extra value which JDG are getting out of this deficit, despite them being so far behind, is meaning that LNG can't cleanly close the game. They're winning the fight. They are creeping ahead in this game ever so slowly, but JDG, they aren't giving them free wins even with that. Tarzan spotted on this long wraparound flank, but by this time it's already too late. I mean, even though you see the Lee-Sin, the fight's already started. You can already see that everyone's in position to make things very, very difficult. The key thing in this fight, though, is look at how defensive Ruler has to play. You cannot afford to be within kick flash range of the Lee-Sin. You can't be afford to be stood anywhere near that frozen path of Scout and put down that claw.
I love that the team immediately pounces. Tarzan doesn't really find much. He's just like, guys, I'm kicking Knight to you, kill him. And they do immediately turn onto that target. I think that's super important that we've seen this kind of level up in terms of that cohesion from LNG from start to finish in this game.
And I think the fact that LNG have so many playmaking tools between mid, jungle, support, and even Zika flashing in for plays, very, very easy for them to kind of pass the baton to someone else to make the game-winning play. Also, the difference between these mid laners in terms of damage, never mind these AD carries. Huge, got a death cap on one side, to a Morale Nomicon on the
They're
other.
actually trying to catch out Scout. He goes with that frozen tomb, though. There's a TP coming in from Zika. They got the back line here. Kanavi goes down to LP yet again, though, and Zika is just taking a 1v3 while 369 burned down by the rest of LNG. Zika is finding the play here. He gets one. Can he get more? Leap strike coming up soon, but the rest of LNG want to help him take down the kicks of Tarzan to get two more. And an ace comes through for LNG. That should be the game.
Every fight for the last, 5, 10, 15 minutes has been hard fought, but it has still been inevitable. LNG walking away with a Game 1 win in this series to determine really who's looking strongest to go towards that second seed.
And we talked about mid-jungle. While they look great, it is 8-0 for LP in the bot lane. And what a holistic performance from LNG. They just look damn good.
That is a statement game from that development prospect AD carry from LNG. Not just a few series ago, LP was losing one side of AD carry matchup, switching to the other side of it in the next game and losing that as well. But against ruler of all players, of all AD carries in the LPL right now, he stands up with that kind of performance. LNG, they slap hard in game one.
They do, and it started off with Tarzan on the Lissandra. I think that pick is so crucial now, and JDG is going to have a lot to think about coming into the draft of game number 2, where we have questions on how they can take away some of these pieces, because we saw Kanavi not getting those winning lanes. It looked real rough. It started with an invade from LNG as well.
And particularly with that invade, right, that was because they didn't have priority in top lane or in mid lane. I think going through into the next draft, especially when you were already on red side, I think you got to use that for counter pick mid. As much as, you know, I love seeing Ahri. I have 1,000,000 points in the champion. Can you see all those Ahri figures up there? I love the champion, but blind picking it into something which can be countered because you know the champion pool of the mid lane is on both sides. It feels like it's a risk. You need to have pushing mid to allow Kanavi to play the style which we know and love him for, where he has a pushing lane, he gets to invade and take over the game. He didn't get to do that this game.
And I'll just point out that I think Jax is going to join the ban table. I just, you know, there's some answers there, but it didn't shine through. I think Zika able to get a lot of damage. Yeah. You know, I think there is a lot of things that they can kind of digress from game number 1 for JDG and come back to the drawing table, get something a little bit stronger in that mid jungle, and maybe look at that cohesion, that communication at the level 3 mark and see where they can get something going.
It's always going to be a tricky kind of puzzle between these top teams of the LPL. Sometimes you have a player mismatch somewhere on the map. Sometimes you don't expect it. Don't think anyone expected LP to be pulling out that kind of performance against ruler of all players. We keep returning back to that. But going into game 2, the glory of best of 3s, get to see a second crack at it.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have the gold graph very soon to see exactly how that went. Hey, look at that.
You've summoned it. Congratulations.
And again, LP cashing in at the right moments. We're talking about maybe a little bit of stress. Give it a ruler every time you hear those adoration stacks go over, but ending on a 13,000 gold lead and just strength to strength for LNG.
I think very importantly as well was that in the second ban phase as well, fanning out that Talia, that has been one of the mid lane answers to that Draven. We called it out in the draft.
Yeah.
That Unraveled Earth makes it so hard for both that Lee Sin and that Draven to play. I almost wonder at that point whether JDG should have just said, look, Kanavi, you're going to have to stretch your champion pool a bit. This would have been the pick for us. Knock that in on 3, but they didn't realize that at the time. Ended up locking in jungle and bot lane, as so many teams do across this meta in 2023 so far. But
Look at those KDAs.
Those KDAs are absolutely nuts, considering that they're playing against JDG of all teams.
Yeah, and honestly, Zika on the 7-1 Jax up there. But it really was about getting LP their early gold, seeing how that top lane went, and the establishment of Hung joining up with Tarzan and Knight, that early move. I called it when we saw the Nautilus, and I love that pick for him because it enables Hung to help the rest of the team. Now, we'll see what JDG's response is in game number 2 of our match of the week.